Oblivion Remastered is packed with powerful gear, but few rewards are as unique or as unpredictable as the Daedric Artifacts. Traditionally, Oblivion features 15 Daedric Artifacts, one for each shrine quest, but in this list I've included a few extra legendary items that deserve the spotlight, including a couple from the Shivering Isles expansion and one from the Thieves Guild questline. So while they might not come from shrines, they still pack just as much lore, power, and gameplay impact. Now, with that said, let's rank every Daedric artifact from worst to best. Kicking off the list at number 20 is the Wabbajack, Sheogorath's delightfully deranged party trick disguised as a Daedric artifact. We can get our hands on this thing as early as level 2. All we need is a head of lettuce, a spool of yarn, and a lesser soul gem to kick off the quest at Sheogorath's shrine. What follows is a delightfully unhinged prank on the villagers of Borderwatch, and if we pull it off, the Mad God himself rewards us with his chaotic creation. Design-wise, the Wabbajack definitely fits the Sheogorath brand, 3 screaming faces twisted together at the tip. But compared to the Skyrim version, this one feels a little bit toned down in looks and use. In Skyrim, it was unpredictable and useful. Here, it's just unpredictable. The Wabbajack casts a spell that randomly transforms most creatures, though not NPCs, into something else entirely. That could mean turning a wolf into a sheep, or into something much worse. And since the transformation only lasts 10 seconds, our enemy comes back in with full health once the effect wears off. So sometimes we don't just fail to finish a fight, we make it even harder for ourselves. Worse yet, the Wabbajack has just 10 uses before it runs out of charge, and that's with a full bar. And for me, it's just not worth the gamble. I like tools I can count on. Next up, we've got the Masque of Clavicus Vile, or as I like to call it, the consolation prize for making a very questionable life choice. To get this stylish regret of a helmet, you'll need to be level 20 and offer 500 septims at Clavicus Vile's shrine. That's a lot of septims, and he then sends us after Umbra, both the sword and the warrior, hiding out in Vindazel. If we manage to defeat her, which we can do fairly easily if we get creative, we're left with one of the most lopsided choices in the entire game. Hand over Umbra for the mask, or keep the sword and miss out on the helm forever. A decision I made in exactly 0.3 seconds. That said, the mask itself actually looks fantastic, easily one of the coolest designs in Oblivion. It's got this regal stone-faced noble look with a flowing beard and gold-tipped horns, which are way more distinguished than the slightly off-putting demon face version we get in Skyrim. But unfortunately, looks can be deceiving. Stat-wise, it's a Daedric level heavy helmet, so defensively it holds its own. But the enchantment, a flat plus 20 boost to personality, and that's it. So no elemental resistance, no stat buffs for combat, no passive healing. Basically nothing exciting. Sure, merchants will warm up to us, and our speechcraft will get a little bump, but let's be real, Oblivion's economy isn't exactly cutthroat, is it? There are plenty of ways to earn a small fortune in this game, and it doesn't require this fancy hat. So while the mask looks great, when it comes at the cost of losing a top tier weapon like Umbra, I just can't justify it. I'll take the sword every goddamn time. Sliding into the 18th spot is the Staff of Sheogorath, the Mad God's personal walking stick. Now, unlike most Daedric artifacts, this one isn't granted at a shrine. We craft it ourselves deep into the Shivering Isles expansion. After finishing the Helpless Army quest, we're sent to collect 2 wonderfully odd ingredients, a branch from Milkar and the Eye of Sirta. Once we hand them off to Dias, Sheogorath's cranky old librarian, and complete a few more rituals at the Font of Madness, the staff will be finally ours. And visually, it's brilliant. Twisted wood, ominous carvings, and a grotesque eyeball glaring out at the world. It's one of the coolest looking staffs in the game in my opinion, even eye-catching, one might say. In terms of function, the staff casts the Voice of Sheogorath, which freezes every enemy within a 75-foot radius for 15 seconds. So no attacks, just instant stillness. And as a crowd control tool, it's phenomenal. I've certainly had my fair share of moments where a sudden panic shot from the staff has saved my bacon. But here's the issue. Outside of those oh no moments, I almost never use it. The effect is pure utility. And since frozen enemies are invulnerable, we can't take advantage of that pause to wipe them out. It's a stall tactic, not a strategy. So while it's fun, flashy, and perfectly Sheogorath, outside of stalling a crowd, it's a staff that mostly just sits in my inventory, looking weird and feeling neglected. At number 17, we've got Volendrung, Malakath's legendary war warhammer and basically the Daedric equivalent of a wrecking ball. To earn it, we'll need to be level 10 and offer up some troll fat at Malakath's shrine. In exchange, he'll send us on what might be one of the more unexpectedly wholesome Daedric quests in the game, freeing a group of unslaved ogres from Bleak Mine. Do the right thing and Malakath rewards us with his Hammer of Might. And visually, this thing is a beast. True to its Dwemer roots, it's cold and industrial, with silver runes carved into the head, topped with brutal spikes jutting out like it's designed to crush both bones and aesthetics. That said, I still prefer Skyrim's version. That one looks like it actively wants to end you. Now let's talk performance. Volendrung hits with a max damage of 21, which sounds okay until we start comparing it to other Daedric weapons. Plenty of them hit just as hard, or harder, while being faster, lighter, and generally more practical. This hammer, on the other hand, weighs a whopping 60 units, so if we're not rocking high strength, it'll slow us down more than it helps. The enchantment at least does give it a little spark though. Each strike paralyzes the enemy for 3 seconds and drains 5 health per second for 20 seconds. That's a potential for 100 damage just from the enchantment. And yes, if we can chain our hits, we can absolutely stunlock enemies into oblivion. But here's the massive problem. It only has 16 charges per full bar. That's barely enough for one solid fight. And once it's drained, we're stuck lugging around a giant slab of metal that's more of a liability than a weapon. So while Volendrung can end fights quickly, the window of usefulness is just too short for my liking. Taking the 16th spot is the Sanguine Rose, a staff that's as beautiful as it is unpredictable. To earn this chaotic little bouquet, we'll need to be level 8 and bring a bottle of Cyrodiilic brandy to Sanguine's shrine. What follows is pure Daedric nonsense, casting a spell that strips partygoers of their clothes mid-banquet, triggering a flurry of gasps, guards, and naked panic. But once the dust settles, Sanguine returns our gear and hands over his robes. Visually, the staff is a long twisted rod covered in thorns and crowned with a glowing red blossom. It's easily one of the prettiest looking Daedric artifacts in the game, but beneath that elegance is a whole lot of chaos. When fired, the rose summons a random Daedra at our target. That could be a Scamp, a Clanfear, a Dramora, a Zivilai, or even one of the 3 elemental Atronachs. But if we're really lucky, we'll summon a Zivilai and he'll bring along a Clanfear buddy, turning one cast into 2 allies, or enemies, depending on how things play out. Because here's the thing, this summon isn't on our side. The creature attacks the nearest target, which is usually our enemy, but not always. I've seen it go after allies, townsfolk, horses, and yes, even me. It's basically like throwing a live grenade and hoping it lands in the right room. That said, I do appreciate the rose in the early to mid game. Shoot it into a crowd and it'll usually pull some heat off, just long enough for us to reposition or bail. And for non-magic builds, it's a cool way to dip into conjuration without ever touching a spellbook. Still, the flaws stack up fast. The creature only sticks around for 20 seconds and the randomness becomes far less charming once we're facing serious threats like Storm Atronachs or Minotaur Lords. So it just doesn't hold up in the late game. Not to mention, it drains charges quickly, which means we'll be burning through soul gems almost as fast as we burn through patience. So while the Sanguine Rose may look stylish, it's best handled with care, because things aren't always rosy. Claiming the 15th spot is the Skull of Corruption, Vermina's twisted little love letter to chaos and nightmares. To get our hands on this disturbing artifact, we need to be at least level 5 and offer up a black soul gem at Vermina's shrine. Once we meet the conditions, Vermina sends us on a trippy little quest to recover her stolen ore from the mad wizard Arkved. Survive that, and the skull will be ours. Visually, this is the coolest looking stave in the game in my opinion. A gnarled rod topped with a snarling skull, glowing red eyes, and curling ram's horns. It looks dangerous, ancient, and deeply cursed, which is exactly the vibe you want from something tied to dreams and madness. And frankly, I think it looks way better than the watered down version we get in Skyrim. Now let's talk function. The Skull of Corruption creates a hostile clone of whatever humanoid we hit. The clone mirrors their current stats, gear, well, most of the time, and aggression, and sticks around for 30 seconds or until one of them drops. So if we time it right, it's basically a free ally in the middle of a fight. Fire it at the strongest enemy in a group, let them duke it out with their evil twin, and clean up the rest while the chaos unfolds. That said, it's not without its limits. It only works on humanoids, so don't expect to clone trolls, Daedra, or your horse. We also can't spam it, as there's a 30-second cooldown between clones, and the staff only holds 20 charges, so we'll be topping it up pretty regularly. But in its defense, it creates real tactical openings. Unlike the Sanguine Rose, the clone always targets the original, not some random bystander, so it's less risky, more reliable, and just feels more satisfying to use. I wouldn't call it a mainstay weapon, but the Skull of Corruption earns its spot by being clever, creepy, and thematically perfect for Varamina. Coming in at number 14 is the Ring of Namira, a grim little trinket that rewards us for being as unpleasant as possible. To begin the quest, we'll need to be level 5 and drop our personality to 20 or lower. Why? Because Namira only speaks to the foulest folks in Tamriel. To do that, we can chug some cheap wine until we're borderline offensive. Once we're disgusting enough, her shrine will finally speak to us. From there, the task is dark but simple. Plunge 3 priests of Arcane into literal darkness, blind them with magic, watch Namira's cultists do their thing, and our reward is this deceptively powerful ring. At a glance, the Ring of Namira doesn't seem like much, but the enchantment is surprisingly strong. It gives a 12% reflect damage and 10% reflect spell passively. That means anytime someone attacks, part of the damage bounces right back at them without us having to do anything. And the even better part is that it stacks, so if we pair it with gear like the Spellbreaker or the Escutcheon of Cowl, we'll be pushing our reflective values close to 50%. That's half of our enemy's damage ricocheting straight back into their face. And if we throw in a heavy armor setup, we've got a defensive build that thrives under pressure. The more hits we take, the faster our enemies bleed out, which is oddly satisfying. But it's not all upside. With only 2 ring slots in Oblivion, equipping Namira's ring means giving up other high-value choices like the Mundane Ring or the Ring of Iron Fist, both of which offer more direct benefits, especially for the late game. That said, this ring is consistent. Unlike something like the Sanguine Rose, which is chaotic, the Ring of Namira quietly delivers value in every fight. It just works. So while it's not the most exciting artifact on the list, it's the first one I'd seriously consider building around, and that alone makes it more than just a trophy. At number 13, we've got Saviour's Hide, a sleek, deadly-looking piece of light armor granted by Hircine, the Daedric Prince of the Hunt. To earn it, we'll need to be level 17 and bring a bear or wolf pelt to Hircine's shrine. He'll then task us with tracking down and killing a legendary unicorn in Arcane Grove, guarded by 3 minotaurs. It's a proper hunt, brutal, rare, and just the kind of twisted sport Hircine loves. Return with the unicorn's horn, and Saviour's Hide will be ours. Now, I really like how this armor looks. Skyrim's version was fine, but in Oblivion Remastered, it's on another level. It's a sleeveless cuirass draped in fur, dominated by a snarling wolf's face with glowing red eyes. Chainmail underneath peeks through like it's barely holding everything together. It looks primal, aggressive, and perfectly suited for a Daedric trophy piece. Stat-wise, it's solid for light armor. It offers a max armor rating of 12, weighs only 3 units, and has 1000 durability. But the real power comes from its enchantment, a constant 25% resist magic. And that's huge, especially in a game where mages, traps, and spellcasting enemies are pretty much everywhere. And just like the Ring of Namira, this effect stacks, so if we pair it with the Mundane Ring's 50% or a Breton's Racial Resistance, we'll nearly be hitting the game's 85% magic resist cap. That kind of defense can turn deadly Aelid Ruins and Necromancer Lairs into manageable challenges. But of course, it's not perfect. The armor rating is decent, I guess, but it won't carry us through those tougher physical fights. And because the enchantment is fixed, it loses some value later in the game when custom enchanted gear becomes more appealing. So it's far from the best armor in the game, but for anyone who leans into agility or just wants to shrug off a few fireballs, this one's a solid mid-tier pick. At number 12, we've got the Sword of Jyggalag, a massive claymore forged from pure order, wielded by the Daedric Prince himself. Unlike most Daedric artifacts, this one isn't handed to us through a shrine. Instead, it's the final reward for completing the entire Shivering Isles main storyline. After defeating Jyggalag in the final battle, the sword quietly appears behind the throne in New Sheoth Palace. Now, it is worth noting that this is a leveled weapon, but the highest tier version only requires level level 18. And let's be honest, most of us are well past that by the time we wrap up the Isles, so that shouldn't be an issue. Visually, the Sword of Jyggalag is sleek and symmetrical, polished silver, clean lines and sharp edges. It absolutely fits the theme of Order, but compared to other Daedric artifacts, it's a little plain. Honestly, it kinda reminds me of a fancy silver claymore. Effective, but not exactly eye-catching. But where it lacks in flair, it makes up for in raw power. At its max tier, it hits for 26 damage, one of the highest base damage values in the game. And since it's flagged as Daedric, it can strike ghosts and other resistant enemies without needing a magical enchantment. And speaking of enchantments, it doesn't have one. But in my opinion, that's actually its biggest strength. The Sword of Jyggalag is a blank slate, so we can take it to the Arcane University and customize it with whatever enchantments fit our playstyle. And that flexibility makes it a serious contender, even compared to more complete artifacts. That said, it's not for everyone. Some players prefer a weapon that comes ready to swing with powerful effects right out of the gate. And at 58 weight, it's far from ideal for thieves or assassins. This one's clearly made for the heavy hitters. Still, I love that it gives us room to get creative. It may not be the flashiest weapon in the lineup, but it's one of the few that truly feels like ours once we've claimed it. Sliding in at number 11, we've got the Oghma Infinium, Mehrunes Razor's eerie little notebook of cosmic cheat codes. Now, this isn't just something we'll find lying around in a ruin. Oh no. To even get this quest, we have to be level 20, complete every other Daedric shrine quest in the game, and have started Blood of the Daedra in the main story. Only then does Mehrunes Razor finally take notice, sending a messenger to point us toward his hidden shrine high up in the Yeral Mountains. And the challenge doesn't end there. Mora wants souls, specifically one from each of the 10 playable races. He gives us a custom soul trap spell and a special soul gem, and we've got 2 minutes per cast to fill it. It's weirdly specific and most certainly tedious, but once we finish the job, we're finally rewarded with the Oghma Infinium. And what does it do? Well, it's a one-use book that lets us choose between 3 paths: Steel, Shadow, or Spirit. Each one gives us +10 to 2 attributes and +10 to 3 related skills. The Path of Steel boosts strength and speed, along with blade, blunt, and heavy armor. The Path of Shadow gives agility and speed, plus sneak, security, and light armor. And the Path of Spirit enhances intelligence and willpower, alongside conjuration, destruction, and restoration. So no matter what our build, one of these options will give us a solid power spike. And for the min-maxers out there, yes, the bonuses can push our stats beyond the normal 100 cap, all the way up to 110. But here's why it doesn't quite crack the top 10. It comes very late. By the time we've done all the other shrine quests and collected 10 souls, chances are we've already beaten the main quest, hit higher levels, and are well on our way to maxing out our core skills. It's a great reward, but it feels more like a post-game bonus than a tool we'll actually use during the peak of our adventure. Don't get me wrong, I love what it offers. Permanent stat boosts are rare in Oblivion, but when the game hands you a chapter this powerful, you kind of wish it had come a few pages earlier. Kicking off the top 10, we've got the Mace of Molag Bal, a soul-sacking, armor-crushing club straight from the Daedric Prince of Domination himself. To get it, we'll need to be level 17 and offer a lion pelt at his shrine. What follows is one of the darkest Daedric quests in the game. Who would have guessed it? Molag Bal sends us to torment a peaceful farmer until he finally snaps and attacks us. When he does, Molag Bal will resurrect us, claim the farmer's soul, and hand over the real mace as our twisted reward. Visually, this weapon is terrifying. The head is a brutal star of jagged rust-dark metal, as if it's been grinding through bones for centuries. The haft is thick, spiraled iron wrapped tight and topped with another nasty spike. It's easily one of the most intimidating artifacts in the game, and it feels like something only Molag Bal would carry. I still prefer the one in Skyrim though. That one looks even more menacing. Now stats-wise, the mace pulls its weight. It hits for a max of 27 damage, slightly above a standard Daedric mace, and since it's one-handed, we can pair it with a good shield, something like Spellbreaker or the Escutcheon of Cowl, to create a heavy-hitting, tanky setup. Its enchantment drains 5 points of strength and 5 points of magicka for 10 seconds with every hit. So in theory, we're weakening enemies while buffing ourselves, especially if we keep the pressure on with the effect active. But here's the catch. 5 points just isn't a lot. Most enemies die before the drain really adds up, which can be good or bad. bad, depending on which way you look at it. It works better against tougher targets like Minotaur Lords or Ogres, where reducing their strength might slow them down or even encumber them. And against mages, that magicka drain can be useful. The mace has 44 charges per full bar, which is decent, but like most enchanted weapons, we'll want Azura's Star or a steady supply of Grand Soul Gems to keep it powered up. And while it hits hard, it's also heavy, weighing 45 units. That's a lot, especially for stealth characters or battle mages with limited strength. Still, that damage is solid, and with the right setup, we can turn this weapon into a slow grinding nightmare for our enemies. Sneaking into the number 9 spot is the Ring of Khajiiti, a stealth lover's dream and the perfect starter kit for anyone who would rather rob first and ask questions never. To claim this stylish little artifact, we'll need to be at least level 10 and bring one undead ingredient, that being bone meal, ectoplasm, or mort flesh, to Meridia's shrine. But don't show up at night. Meridia doesn't do business after dark. Once we've made our offering, she will send us to clear out a necromancer's hideout in Howling Cave. It's a quick cleanse and collect quest, and when it's done, the Ring of Khajiiti will be ours. Now stats-wise, this ring grants a constant 35% chameleon and plus 10 to speed. That means we're always partially invisible and noticeably quicker on our feet. Two big wins for stealth-based characters. Sure, 35% chameleon might not seem like much on its own, but just like pretty much everything else, it stacks. So combine it with a few enchanted gear pieces, or something like the Ring of Lordship, and we can push that chameleon rating all the way up to 100%. And what happens then? Well, we're untouchable. Guards can't see us, enemies won't react, and we can literally clean out entire stores in broad daylight. The plus 10 speed boost is easy to overlook, but it makes a real difference. Pair it with higher acrobatics, and we'll be leaping over walls, zipping through dungeons, and dodging danger before it even gets close. It's especially helpful for heavy armor users, who usually move like they've got bricks strapped to their boots. But by itself, 35% chameleon isn't full invisibility, and it doesn't silence our footsteps. So if we're clanking around in a full suit of ebony, enemies are still going to hear us coming. And since it takes up one of just 2 ring slots, it's in direct competition with powerhouses like the Mundane Ring or the Ring of Iron Fist, both of which offer more universal benefits. And for magic users, this might feel a little bit redundant. With a strong invisibility spell, we can often bypass stealth sections without needing gear at all. Still, this ring stands out because it asks nothing from us. We just equip it and it starts working immediately. For stealth builds especially, the Ring of Khajiiti is one of the simplest, most effective upgrades in the game. At number 8, we've got Spellbreaker, a Dwemer shield reclaimed by Periite, the Daedric Prince of Pestilence. To earn this magical shield, we'll need to be level 10 or higher and make our way to Periite's shrine. Unlike most Daedric quests, this one doesn't need an offering, so we can speak to Periite right away. He'll open a portal to his realm and task us with rescuing 5 trapped worshippers whose souls are stuck in a strange pocket of oblivion. Once all 5 are saved, Periite will reward us with Spellbreaker. Visually, it's classic Dwemer design, bronze and brass, reinforced plating, and a domed center that looks like it was ripped off a dwarven centurion. It feels sturdy, reliable, and built for war. And personally, I think it looks way better than the version we get in Skyrim, which feels a bit more like it came from a school art project. Stat-wise, Spellbreaker has a max armor rating of 17, weighs 18 units, and comes with 1500 durability. That places it just above an Orcish shield in terms of defense, but it lasts much longer. The real value though is in its enchantment, which reflects spells by 30%. That means about 1 out of every 3 spells has a chance to bounce back and hit the enemy caster instead. And if we stack it with gear like the Mundane Ring and the Aelid Crown of Nenalata, we can easily hit the 100% reflex spell cap. At that point, we're not just resisting magic, we're weaponizing it, returning fireballs, lightning bolts, and paralysis spells back to sender. But of course, this shield isn't perfect. Its physical defense is only decent. It won't outperform top tier shields like ebony or glass in terms of raw damage reduction, and reflect spell won't help against arrows, axes, or angry bears. But for any warrior, paladin, or battle mage looking for a low effort way to shut down enemy casters, Spellbreaker is one of the best tools out there. At number 7, we've got the Grey Cowl of Nocturnal, a stolen Daedric relic cursed by the Mistress of Shadows herself. It's the final reward for completing the entire Thieves Guild questline, wrapping up with the ultimate heist. That's when the Grey Fox reveals his true identity, lifts the curse, and passes the cowl on to us. Visually, it's understated but iconic. A stitched charcoal grey hood with worn texture and glowing purple runes down the center seam. The narrow eye holes give it a sharp, almost ominous look. A clear sign that this isn't just a thief's hood, it is the thief's hood. But what really sets the cowl apart is how it changes the rules. It weighs just 2 units, counts as light armor, and the moment we put it on, we become the Grey Fox. So, our infamy jumps to 100, our bounty to 500, and every guard in Cyrodiil is suddenly out for our blood. What's worse is that we can't even pay the fine or yield, so our only option is to run for our very lives. But if we manage to escape and remove the cowl out of sight, our criminal record vanishes along with it. So it's essentially like flipping a switch on our wanted level. And that's just the beginning. The enchantments are tailor-made for stealth. 200 points of feather lets us haul way more loot. Fortify sneak by 25 points immediately sharpens our stealth skills, and detect life by 120 feet highlights every nearby creature through walls. So whether we're planning a break-in, setting up an ambush, or just scouting a dungeon, we'll see the whole room before we even step into it. And that's very reassuring. It turns us into a one-man recon unit. We can case an entire building, clean it out, then drop the hood and walk away like nothing happened. And it's not just useful for stealth characters either. Every build can benefit from popping it on before a dungeon dive, then swapping back to their main gear when the fighting starts. The only drawback is that we've got to be extremely careful, because fast traveling into town with the cowl equipped can cause chaos fast. Still, for stealth builds and role players, the Grey Cowl is nearly unmatched. Even after our sneak is maxed and feather becomes less important, that wide range detect life alone makes it a permanent part of our toolkit. Coming in at number 6, we've got Mehrunes Razor, a deadly little dagger forged by the Daedric Prince of Destruction himself. This artifact is the reward for completing unearthing Mehrunes Razor. To start that quest, we'll need to head to Sundercliff Watch, a crumbling fort east of Breville. The quest kicks off the moment we step inside. From there, it's a massive journey through ancient mines, a buried Aelid city, and 9 dungeon cells packed with Drothmeri cultists, vampires, and Daedra. It's one of the longest and most rewarding side quests in the game, and if we make it through, the Razor will be our prize. Visually, it's sleek and menacing, a short silver blade with a broad spine and a needle-point tip. It doesn't look like a weapon built for battlefields. It looks like it was made to end someone fast and without mercy. Mechanically, Mehrunes Razor is a leveled weapon, so we'll want to wait until level 20 or higher to claim the strongest version. At its peak, it hits for 20 damage, has 44 charges, 1200 durability, and swings faster than most short swords. But what makes it truly dangerous is the enchantment, a chance to instantly kill any enemy it hits. This effect, called Daedric Banishing, starts at 2% per strike, and scales with our luck, up to around 11% at its max. And when it procs, it's game over. The target dies instantly, no matter what their health or resistance is. But there's a twist. If the enemy has Reflect spell, that instant kill can bounce back and take us out instead. So while it's incredibly powerful, it's also a little risky. Liches, Zivili, and higher level Daedra are especially dangerous if they're packing Reflect gear. On top of that, the Razor also disintegrates armor by 15 points per second for 7 seconds. So even if the one-hit kill doesn't trigger, we're still shredding through our opponent's defenses with every stab. Used wisely, this weapon is devastating. Stack it with luck potions or enchantments, and we can push that instant kill chance even higher. It's especially great for tough boss fights or as a panic button when things get out of hand. And that's what makes it so special, whether we build our entire playstyle around it or keep it as a last resort ace in the hole. Mehrunes Razor is pure high risk, high reward, a weapon that might kill anything in one hit, including you. Breaking into the top 5, we've got the Ebony Blade, a sleek shadowy katana granted by Mephala, the Daedric Prince of Secrets, Lies, and Subtle Murder. To claim it, we'll need to be level 15 and bring a sprig of Nightshade to Mephala's shrine between midnight and dawn. She'll then send us to Bleaker's Way with a sinister task: pit 2 families against each other by planting false evidence, assassinating their leaders, and letting the survivors tear each other apart. There's no peaceful option here because Mephala rewards towards betrayal, not mercy. But once the chaos is complete, she'll hand over the blade. In terms of design, the Ebony Blade is refined but deadly, an Akaviri-style katana with a polished steel blade and elegant black and gold details on the handle. It doesn't scream evil, but it radiates a quiet threat, which fits Mephala whole vibe perfectly. Unlike the Skyrim version, this Ebony Blade is a one-handed weapon. It hits for 24 max damage, has 800 durability, and weighs 46 units, which is pretty hefty for a one-hander, but it absolutely brings the pain. On hit, it casts Silence for 10 seconds and absorbs 8 points of health. Silence shuts down enemy mages completely, so no healing, no fireballs, no summoning. Meanwhile, the absorb health effect helps keeps us alive as we swing, so if we land multiple strikes in a row, the healing stacks fast. This makes it especially strong against battle mages, because one good hit cuts off their magic, and from there we can just stay aggressive. Add in a few strength or speed potions, and we've got a reliable strategy for surviving the toughest fights while draining our enemies dry. But of course, Silence doesn't affect non-magic enemies, so against warriors or beasts, we're relying solely on the health absorption. And at 46 weight, it's one of the heaviest one-handed weapons in the game, so it's not exactly the most efficient option if we're worried about encumbrance. Still, it definitely earns its place in the top 5. It's a stylish deadly weapon that rewards aggressive tactical play, and for those who enjoy manipulation and control in combat, the Ebony Blade is quietly one of the best. Claiming the number 4 spot is Azura Star, the unsung hero of every enchanted weapon build. To get our hands on it, we only need to be level 2 and head to Azura's shrine in the Yarrow Mountains, but only at dawn or dusk. Offer some glow dust and Azura will send us to the Gutted Mine to deal with 5 cursed vampires. Once the deed is done, she will reward us with one of the most useful tools in the entire game. At first glance, Azura Star doesn't look like much, it's just an 8-pointed crystal, but this little item is quietly game-changing, as it functions as a reusable soul gem. Now here's how it works. First we trap a soul in it, use that soul to recharge our enchanted weapon, and instead of breaking like a normal soul gem, the star returns to our inventory, good as new. So no waste, no clutter, and no hunting for replacements. Pair it with a weapon like Umbra, which has soul trap built in, and suddenly every fight becomes a free recharge. Our gear is always powered up, our inventory is light, and our magical economy runs like clockwork. Whether it's staves, enchanted bows, or a sword laced with lightning, the star keeps them ready to go without costing us a single septim, and that's just extremely convenient. That said, it's not perfect. The star can't trap human or elven souls, so no bandits, necromancers, or overly curious guards. It only works on creatures, beasts, and Daedra, so if we're after humanoid souls, we'll still need regular black soul gems. Man, I miss Skyrim's black star. Still, that limitation doesn't really hold it back much. For the vast majority of builds, especially those that rely on enchanted gear, Azura Star is essential. It keeps our weapons alive, our inventory clean, and our soul hunting efficient. And best of all, it never runs out. Burning its way into the number 3 spot is Goldbrand, a golden katana blessed by Boethia, the Daedric Prince of Battle and Ambition. To claim it, we need to be level 20 or higher, bring a Daedra heart to Boethia's shrine, and activate her statue. This kicks off a trial by combat in her realm, 9 one-on-one duels, each more intense than the last. Win them all, and Boethia will reward us with one of the strongest weapons in the game. Now, Goldbrand looks as powerful as it plays, a gold-plated katana with a soft, fiery glow running down its edge. It's elegant, refined, and unmistakably deadly, like it's holding a flame just beneath the surface. Mechanically, it's a one-handed weapon with a 27 max damage, 900 durability, and a weight of 52 units. That makes it one of the hardest hitting one-handers in Oblivion, and one of the heaviest too. But because it's one-handed, we can still pair it with a shield or added defense, a rare combo at this level of power. Its enchantment is simple but savage. It deals 22 points of fire damage per hit. And this isn't a slow burn, it's instant damage that stacks with our weapon's physical strikes. Even at higher difficulties, that consistent burst of flame slices through enemies who'd otherwise take dozens of swings to drop. But what makes Goldbrand so effective isn't just the numbers, it's the efficiency. We get high base damage, reliable elemental output, generous charge capacity with its 76 uses, and just clean, dependable DPS. In fact, unless we're up against something with high fire resistance, Goldbrand can even out outdamage Umbra in a straight up fight, and by a lot. But speaking about fire resistance, this is Oblivion, a land overrun by Daedra, and so quite a few enemies like Flame Atronachs, Dunmer or Zivili tend to resist fire, which lowers the enchantment's impact. And at a 52 weight, it's one of the heavier one-handers in the game, so we'll need to manage our inventory carefully, especially if we're running light armor or low strength. Still, these are minor issues. With Azura's Star or a weapon like Umbra for soul trapping, we can keep Goldbrand fully charged with almost no effort, and once we've got it, very little in Oblivion can stand in our way. Sneaking into the runner-up spot at number 2 is the Skeleton Key, Nocturnal's gift to thieves, and honestly, one of the most practical items in the entire game. To earn it, we'll need to be at least level 10, and head to Nocturnal's shrine, tucked away northeast of Leyawiin. After a quick chat with her followers, she'll send us on a simple recovery mission to track down 2 Argonian thieves who've stolen the Eye of Nocturnal. But once we return the Eye, Nocturnal will reward us with the key. Now, in Skyrim, lockpicking is fairly forgiving. It's a simple minigame where we rotate a pick to find the sweet spot and apply the pressure. It's fast, intuitive, and even if we break a few picks, we can usually brute force our way through with a decent supply. Plus, with the Unbreakable perk, even the Skeleton Key isn't that essential. But in Oblivion, it's a completely different story. Lockpicking here means manually lifting each tumbler with precise timing, and if we mess up, the tumbler resets and our pick breaks. It's slower, more punishing, and honestly way more frustrating, especially on higher difficulty locks. And that's exactly where the Skeleton Key changes everything. It gives us a permanent plus 40 boost to our security skill, and more importantly, it acts as an unbreakable lockpick. That means we can try as many times as we want without any risk and no wasted picks. And when we pair that huge skill bonus with the key's durability, lockpicking becomes almost automatic. Tumblers move slower, our timing window gets bigger, and even very hard locks become simple, especially if we use auto attempt. For thieves, stealth builds, dungeon crawlers, or anyone who just wants to stop wasting time on locks, this isn't just useful, it's essential. And in my opinion, the Skeleton Key isn't just one of the best Daedric artifacts, it's the best utility item in the entire game. Simple, powerful, and endlessly convenient. But taking the throne at number 1 is none other than Umbra, a deadly one-handed longsword made for one thing, trapping souls. And in Oblivion, no other weapon does it better. There are 2 ways to get it, but the smarter, more rewarding route is to ignore the official quest entirely. And yes, we can do this immediately after leaving the tutorial dungeon. All we've got to do is head to the Aelid ruin Vindazel, just southwest of the Imperial City. Deep inside, we'll meet the Blade's current wielder, a Bosmer warrior named Umbra, clad in full ebony armor. She's a tough fight, especially at low levels, but with traps or help from nearby guards, she's absolutely beatable even early on, and once she's down, the sword is ours. Visually, Umbra is sleek and sharp, a straight steel grey blade with a talon-shaped silver crossguard and a dark obsidian fuller. A glowing violet gem pulses in the hilt like it's hungry, because it is. Stat-wise, this sword pulls no punches. It's a one-handed longsword with 30 base damage, the highest of any one-hander in the game. It also has 700 durability, 125 enchantment charges, and if we never complete Clavicus Vile's quest, Umbra has 0 weight. That makes it perfect, not just as a main weapon, but also as a weightless backup we'll never regret carrying. Its enchantment is simple but essential. It soul traps for 120 seconds on hit. That means every strike gives us a full 2-minute window to kill our target and capture their soul. Paired with Azura's Star, and suddenly we've got a self-sustaining soul economy that's enough to recharge any enchanted weapon in our arsenal, from Goldbrand to custom gear. But it's not just a tool, it's a powerhouse. Against enemies who resist magic or fire, Umbra's pure physical damage often outperforms elemental weapon. And because it's one-handed, we can still run a shield with it, giving us both offense and defense in a single setup. No other weapon in Oblivion hits this balance, so whether you're optimizing a build or just want something reliable that scales with you from start to finish, Umbra is as close to perfect as a weapon can get. And there we have it, every Daedric artifact in Oblivion Remastered ranked from worst to best. Of course, this list is based on my own personal opinion, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your favorite Daedric artifacts? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, consider dropping a like, subscribing, or checking out some of my other Oblivion content. There's a lot more coming soon. Until next time, thanks for watching, wizards, for this has been the Welsh Wizard, and I shall see you all in the next one.